President Xi said China will strengthen its relationship with New Zealand. This came in a meeting with former New Zealand Prime Minister John Key in Beijing. He said China will keep its door open to more cooperation with other countries. He noted Key's contributions to China-New Zealand ties and said he hopes the former Prime Minister can continue to work for the people of the two countries. And Key echoed these sentiments while congratulating China for the 70th anniversary of the People's Republic.
The October 10 to 11 high-level economic and trade consultations in Washington wrapped up with progress in areas including agriculture, intellectual property rights, currency exchange rates, financial services, and the expansion of trade and technology transfers. The two sides also discussed future consultations and agreed to strive towards reaching a more comprehensive agreement. U.S. President Donald Trump met with Chinese Vice Premier Liu He, who led the Chinese delegation in this round of negotiations. Calling the latest round of talks a substantial phase one, Trump urged both sides to finalize the text of the deal at an early date and move forward with future negotiations. China does agree with the United States in reaching a trade deal.
There's no difference between the two sides in reaching economic and trade agreement. This agreement will be of great significance to China, the United States, and the world, as well as to trade and peace.
The ongoing trade war has adversely affected both economies and indeed the world. In the U.S., it is estimated the average American family is $800 worse off because of the tariffs. And Europe is tipping into recession, experts say in part as a domino effect from the trade war.
Carrie Lam's third policy address came amid months-long protests over the already withdrawn fugitive bill, but also people's concern over better livelihoods in Hong Kong.
Many sectors of our society have condemned the radical acts of rioters and supported the government to strictly enforce the law to end violence. Various sectors have appealed to people with different political views to put aside differences, stop violence as soon as possible, and restore calm in society.
This year's policy address is shorter due to a lack of preparation time, but Lam said she's providing an attachment to the report covering what the government has done and more promises. The speech heavily focused on housing and land supply policies. Lam proposed spending 5 billion Hong Kong dollars to provide 10,000 units of additional transitional housing in the next 3 years.
I hereby set a clear objective that every Hong Kong resident and his family will no longer have to be troubled by or preoccupied with housing issue, and that they will be able to have their own home in Hong Kong, a city that we share.
Financial services and tourism are two of Hong Kong's pillar industries. To maintain competitiveness, Lam has decided to promote social innovation, provide tax cuts for the maritime industry, and support export marketing. Lam says Hong Kong should take the advantage of the Belt and Road Initiative to invite cooperation between Hong Kong and mainland companies and seek opportunities from economic and trade zones overseas. Lam says Hong Kong's basic law protects human rights and the city should never tolerate any form of independence.
So long, we have unwavering confidence, adhere to the one country, two systems principle, stop violence in accordance with the law, and restore social order as early as possible. Hong Kong will soon be able to emerge from the storm and embrace the rainbow.
The address carried the theme of Treasure Hong Kong, Our Home, and the SAR government says they want to show sincerity in making changes.
Steady and quality growth. Key message from Chinese authorities on the national foreign trade for the first 9 months of the year. With an overall growth of 2.8% year-on-year, China's foreign trade value reached nearly 23 trillion yuan. That's about $3.2 trillion. Respectively, exports were up 5.2%, while imports dropped slightly by 0.1%. That has led to a 44% expansion in China's trade surplus. China Customs says many factors matter.
First, our ordinary trade has now become increasingly dominant, and it rose 4.8%, taking up nearly 60% of our total trade. Second is that the private sector is gaining more vitality, with trade values growing by over 10% year-on-year. Exports of electromechanical items, electronics, and labor-intensive products enjoy strong performances as well.
With China-US trade frictions still ongoing, bilateral trade suffered a setback, falling by over 10% in the first 3 quarters. The EU and ASEAN are China's top 2 trading partners. From January to September, the US took the 3rd spot. But this hasn't changed the overall trade picture, as Beijing is seeking to diversify its trading markets. In 2018, China became a major trading partner for more than 120 countries and regions worldwide.
In the first 3 quarters, China carried out a new round of high-quality opening up. Trade with the European Union and ASEAN countries increased by 8.6% and 11.5% respectively. Trade with countries along the Belt and Road grew 9.5%, now taking up nearly 30% of total foreign trade. Trade with African countries also gained 7.5%.
The spokesperson says the customs authorities are speeding up international cooperation with other countries, especially those along the Belt and Road, to create what's called smart customs, so as to further simplify the inspection and quarantine procedures.
China is further opening its doors to doing business with foreign companies. Revisions are being made to regulations on the administration of foreign-funded insurance companies and foreign-funded banks. The revisions allow such banks to establish wholly foreign-funded banks and branches. Meanwhile, the Chinese government will further relax restrictions on foreign bank operations. For example, they're changing minimum time deposit amounts from no less than 1 million yuan to 500,000 yuan, and also abolishing the examination for foreign banks to offer renminbi services. Officials say the revision of regulations will relax restrictions on the admittance requirement for foreign capital insurance companies.
In addition, foreign companies are allowed to invest in and establish insurance companies in China. Foreign financial institutions are allowed to buy shares in insurance companies, and the insurance regulatory body under the State Council is authorized to formulate specific management methods.
Pharmaceutical companies use the first China International Import Expo as a platform to launch their innovative drugs in China. One of the top companies, Novartis, last year showcased the drug Entresto to help treat chronic heart failure.
And now it's already benefiting 1 million patients.
And perhaps just as importantly, the annual expo provides an opportunity for participants to interact with key stakeholders concerning the promotion of new treatments and industry regulations,
including doctors and including government regulatory authorities. This platform provides a one-stop shop opportunity.
Novartis is showcasing several new drugs this year, as well as innovations in digital platforms. Its $1 billion complex in Shanghai is the company's 3rd largest research and development center. This facility is emblematic of the company's long-term ambition in the Chinese pharmaceutical market.
In the next 2-3 years, the healthcare industry in China and the medicine industry in China is going to undergo very, very significant transformation, driven by the government's initiative to provide high-quality generics to the patients, as well as encouraging innovative treatment.
Also aiming to promote new medical treatments in China is Swedish company Elekta. Its focus is on radiotherapy for cancer. The company says radiotherapy remains underutilized in China.
In fact, radiotherapy accounts for about 30% of cancer treatment success cases in developed countries.
The 5-year relative survival rate for all cancers in China averaged 40.5% in 2015. That's while America had already reached 69% by 2014. Elekta said its radiotherapy equipment on display at the Import Expo could help save lives in China.
Last year, the Chinese government released over 1,000 quotas for radiotherapy equipments for public and private hospitals.
Their new equipment made its Asia debut at last year's expo. It's now undergoing clinical trials in China as the company gears up for commercial sales.
At last year's expo, we reached agreements with several dozen business partners.
China has streamlined and accelerated regulatory approvals for new medical products and services in recent years. That's helped international medical firms synergize the timeline for new product launches in China and around the world.